Good day, everyone. Welcome back to 5 Minutes Learning YouTube channel. Today, we're diving into a topic that sits right at the crossroads of innovation, profitability, and our responsibility to the planet. Are you ready to see things differently? Let me ask you, have you ever paused to consider those old devices gathering dust at home? Maybe that iPhone tucked away in a drawer, or a tablet you haven't touched in years. What do you think happens to them? Most of us, if we're honest, see these as outdated, technology that's done its job and is now destined to become e-waste. But is that really the end of the story? What if I told you that one of the world's most valuable companies looks at that old phone and sees not a liability, but a billion-dollar opportunity? Surprised? You should be. This isn't just a theory, it's a proven business model. In fact, when the world's most famous chatbot, ChatGPT, was asked to name a circular economy business model that's generated billions, it immediately pointed to Apple's iPhone trade-in program. Why do you think that is? Today, we're going to unpack how Apple transformed from a company obsessed with the new to a leader in the circular economy. We'll explore a case study that's making waves at Harvard Business School, the brilliance behind a business proposal once rejected by Steve Jobs, and the 3 pillars of success that any company, yes, even yours, can learn from. Ready to dive in? Let's get started. Welcome to our masterclass, Apple's iPhone Revolution, Pioneering the Circular Economy. Let's start with a quick check-in. When you hear the term circular economy, what comes to mind? Is it just recycling, or is there more to it? Let's explore together. For decades, our global economy has followed a linear path. Picture this. We extract raw materials, manufacture a product, use it, and then, what happens? We throw it away. Sound familiar? We all do this every single day. Whether it's a coffee cup, a water bottle, or yes, even your smartphone. It's a routine, isn't it? But here's the problem. This model is fundamentally wasteful. It depends on a never-ending supply of new limited resources, and it generates mountains of waste and pollution. Is that sustainable? Now imagine a different shape, a circle. In a circular economy, the goal is to eliminate waste and keep resources in use for as long as possible. It's a complete shift in mindset. Instead of a straight line, think of a loop, where products, materials, and resources are cycled back into the system. That's the power of circular thinking. So rather than take, make, dispose, the new model is take, make, reuse, recycle. It's about designing products to last, to be repaired, and to retain value over time. Wouldn't you want your devices to have a second life, the ultimate aim? To close the loop in how we consume and produce. It's a challenge, but also a huge opportunity. It's a compelling idea, but for years, it was seen as niche. The big question was always, can this scale? Can a global corporation make it work and make it profitable? Let's be honest. Most companies hesitated. But is it possible to make the circular economy attractive for business at scale? Let's find out. The answer, as you'll see, is a resounding yes. And the proof? It's right there in the story of Apple's iPhone. Our journey begins more than a decade ago with a conversation between 2 visionaries. On one side, Steve Jobs, famous for his pursuit of perfection and breakthrough products. On the other, Marcelo Claure, founder of Brightstar, a leader in wireless services. What happened next changed everything. Their dialogue set the stage for a revolution in how we think about products, value, and sustainability. Ready to see how? Let's continue. Picture this for a moment. Marcelo Claure, a bold thinker, comes to Apple with an idea that, at the time, sounded almost unthinkable. What if Apple launched a trade-in and recycling program for iPhones? Sounds radical, doesn't it? Now just imagine the reaction inside Apple. A company built on selling the latest and greatest. How would they respond to such a proposal? As Professor George Serafeim at Harvard Business School highlights in his case study, the first concern that comes to mind is this: cannibalization of sales. Have you ever thought about that risk? The fear is simple. If you offer a used, more affordable product, won't that eat into the sales of your shiny, top-tier new devices? It's a valid question, right? For a company obsessed with innovation and premium pricing, this was a real risk. Could it have been a deal breaker? Absolutely. And Steve Jobs? As the story goes, he was, understandably, reluctant. But here's the twist. Clore wasn't just talking about recycling. He was talking about expanding the market, reaching new customers Apple had never reached before. That's smart strategy, isn't it? And he was absolutely right. Think about it. The person who buys a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max for $1,200 is not the same person who would buy a refurbished iPhone 12 for $600. Two different markets, two different needs. The trade-in program opened up a massive new segment for Apple. Customers who, before this, simply couldn't afford to join the Apple ecosystem. That's a game changer. This wasn't just a side project. It was a strategic move that expanded Apple's market and, crucially, created a brand new profit center for the company. And the story gets even better. Today, this case is a highlight in Professor Serafim's MBA elective, Risks, Opportunities, and Investments in the Era of Climate Change. Why? Because it's a real-world example of business transformation. It challenges students to rethink how traditional business models can be flipped, not just to boost profits, but to drive real environmental responsibility. Isn't that the kind of innovation we need? The results? The rewards have far outweighed the risks. In 2022 alone, global shipments of used smartphones jumped by over 11%, reaching nearly 283 million units. That's impressive growth. And get this, iPhones made up a staggering 80% of that second-hand market by value and 40% by units. Let that sink in for a moment. So, think about it. Apple, a company known for premium pricing, now dominates the market for used phones as well. That's the power of a bold idea, well executed. Let's break it down together. How exactly does Apple's system operate, and why is it such a financial powerhouse? Let's take a closer look. When you trade in your used device, it doesn't just disappear into a recycling bin. Instead, it enters a highly sophisticated process, one that's far more advanced than most people realize. First, every device is carefully assessed. If it passes the test, meaning it's in good condition, it moves on to refurbishment. And refurbishment isn't just a quick cleanup. We're talking about a thorough process. Cleaning, testing, and often replacing the battery, the screen, even the outer casing. It's almost like getting a brand new phone. The result? That phone is restored to a like-new condition, ready for a second life. Then, it's resold at a lower price point. This is where the brilliance of the system really shines. Apple isn't just recouping costs here. They're generating new revenue from a product that's already been paid for once. That's smart business. In fact, Professor Serafim calls this a funnel of customers. Think about that for a moment. Someone who buys a refurbished iPhone for $600? They're now part of the Apple ecosystem, just like any new customer. They get to experience the seamless interface, the high-quality hardware, and most importantly, the full suite of Apple services. And here's the kicker. Many of these customers start using Apple Music, Apple TV+, iCloud, and more. These services create a steady, recurring stream of profit, a trickle that, over time, adds up to billions. The iPhone, in this way, becomes the key, unlocking a lifetime of loyalty and subscription income for Apple. But what about the devices that can't be refurbished? Good question. This is where Apple's innovation in the circular economy truly stands out. They've developed advanced recycling robots, like Daisy, that can disassemble an iPhone with incredible speed and precision, recovering valuable materials like gold, copper, cobalt, and rare earth elements. It's a win-win. Environmentally, it's a huge step forward, reducing the need for new, often destructive mining operations. And for Apple, it's a strategic move. Recovering these materials is more cost-effective and helps build a more resilient supply chain. By doing this, Apple reduces its reliance on volatile raw material markets and turns potential threats, like resource scarcity and regulation, into opportunities for innovation. That's the real profit engine at work. Let's take a moment to consider this. The circular model isn't just a nice-to-have anymore, it's become essential. In today's world with complex supply chains and urgent environmental challenges, this approach is a necessity. Now let's talk numbers. The financial benefits for Apple? They're clear, and they're more diverse than you might think. First, a brand new revenue stream. By selling refurbished devices, Apple has created a high-margin business that simply didn't exist before. Next, increased customer loyalty. The trade-in program gives people a reason to stay with Apple for their next upgrade, keeping them in the ecosystem. Expanded market share. This program brings in new customers, people who might not have been able to afford a new device before. Now, they're lifelong Apple users. And let's not forget supply chain resilience. By recycling and recovering valuable materials, Apple reduces its reliance on new mining and unpredictable commodity markets. But what about the environment? The case study highlights something called carbon avoidance, a major benefit of the secondhand market. A single refurbished phone produces far less carbon and uses far fewer raw materials than building a brand new one. That's a big deal. In fact, a study from the French Environment and Energy Management Agency found that one refurbished phone generates 11 times less carbon and saves over 261 kilograms of raw materials. Let that sink in. That's a staggering statistic. Truly eye-opening. Most of a smartphone's carbon footprint comes from manufacturing, the mining, the processing, the assembly of all those components. It's a resource-intensive process. By giving a phone a second life, Apple is directly avoiding those emissions and the need for more energy-intensive mining. That's real impact. And this idea, it goes far beyond just phones. A related study from Tsinghua University found that if we try to meet global copper demand through mining alone, the environmental consequences will be devastating. Copper is essential for electric vehicles, wind turbines, and data centers. It's everywhere in our modern world. But if we can boost the global recycling rate of copper to 60, even 80%, we could dramatically cut emissions. That's the heart of circular economy thinking, closing material loops and reducing our need for virgin resources. Let's pause for a moment. Do you think Apple is just sitting back, satisfied with its achievements? Not at all. In fact, the recent launch of the iPhone 15 series and the latest Apple Watch family demonstrated a company doubling down on sustainability. Did you catch that event? It was more than just new tech. It wasn't simply a product showcase. It was a bold statement on sustainability, broadcast to 28 million live viewers. That's real impact. So, what's Apple's strategy for carbon neutrality? It's clear. They're aiming for net zero emissions by 2030, built on 3 key pillars. Let's break them down. First, clean electricity. Apple now powers its manufacturing with 100% clean energy, and they're pushing suppliers to do the same. Imagine the scale of that commitment. This shift has already enabled Apple to support over 15 gigawatts of clean energy worldwide. That's a massive contribution to global sustainability. Next, responsible material usage. This is the circular economy in action. Recycling, reusing, and reducing waste at every step. Did you know? The Apple Watch Series 9 and SE cases are made with 100% recycled aluminum. That's impressive, right? And the Apple Watch Ultra 2? It uses 95% recycled titanium. Apple is setting a new standard for the industry. Their goal? To use 100% recycled metals in key components by 2025. Ambitious, but achievable. Even the Taptic engine, the part that gives your iPhone those elegant vibrations, is now made with 100% recycled tungsten. Every detail counts. Third, reduce transportation emissions. Apple is cutting its shipping carbon footprint by using more eco-friendly options, like ocean and rail transport. Smart move, don't you think? They even redesigned the new Apple Watch packaging, 100% fiber-based and more compact, so they can ship 25% more watches per trip. Efficiency meets sustainability. So, what does all this mean? It's not just good for the environment, it's smart business. Apple is future-proofing its supply chains, building loyalty with eco-conscious consumers, and leading the industry by example. That's the power of innovation with purpose. Let's pause for a moment. What can we really learn from Apple's journey about the future of business? It's a question worth considering. As Professor Serafeim puts it, when you stop viewing this approach as a threat and instead see it as an opportunity, you unlock a tremendous wave of innovation. That's the real power here. It challenges us to rethink our customers, our business models, and even our own capabilities. That's how progress happens. Think about it for a second. It opens up a brand new customer funnel. It creates an additional revenue stream. It strengthens brand loyalty, making customers want to stay. It also makes your supply chain more resilient, ready to handle future challenges. And perhaps most importantly, it positions your company as a positive force for the planet. This model isn't just for tech giants. Companies in all kinds of industries are already adopting elements of it. Nike, for example, is designing products that are easier to disassemble and recycle. IKEA is reimagining furniture with circularity in mind. According to Professor Serafeim, there are 3 essentials for success in this space. Let's break them down. First, high residual value. Your product needs to be durable and hold its value over time. Second, strong brand loyalty. People need to want to stay in your ecosystem. Apple's brand makes it desirable to own an iPhone, new or refurbished. Third, an efficient collection system. You need a seamless way to get old products back. Apple's network of stores and carrier partnerships makes this possible at scale. This is the future of business. It's a shift in mindset where climate transition isn't just a cost, but a catalyst for new products, new customers, and entirely new markets. Consider this. Manufacturing a new phone entirely in the US can cost up to $3,500, according to Mashable. That highlights just how dependent we are on global supply chains and critical minerals. The circular economy is the answer to future-proofing these systems. It's about moving from a vulnerable, linear model to a resilient, circular one. And remember, this isn't just about big corporations. You, as a consumer, play a powerful role in this revolution. By trading in your devices, choosing refurbished products, and supporting companies that value sustainability, you're voting for a greener, more responsible future. The next time you spot an old phone, maybe tucked away in a drawer, pause for a moment. Is it just e-waste? Or could it be something more? Imagine, that device is part of a business model generating billions, and a symbol of how far human innovation can take us. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. Did you learn something new today? If you did, go ahead and hit that like button, it really helps. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Which companies do you think are leading the way in the circular economy? Let's get a conversation started, and don't forget to subscribe for more insights on business, technology, and building a better future together. There's a lot more to explore. Until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.